My name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a Try a Chapter tag. I didn't know what to film this week, so I put it up to you guys on Instagram. Side note, if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, please do, because you get to participate in stuff like this sometimes when I ask you stuff. I put it up to you guys. I was like, what do you guys want to see from me this week? I gave you the option of a recommendation, of something that's writerly, of something that is a series I've started in 2021, and it was actually a really close race. Try a Chapter tag went out by like 1 vote, so I will be hopefully doing those other videos soon as well. But for today, we're doing a Try a Chapter tag. One of the books that I'm going to read is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This one has an interesting magic system and is about a daughter who's like lost her memory due to an illness, and she still wants to prove to her father that she can be the heir, that she can learn this magic even though he doesn't trust her anymore because of that illness. So this is the first one. Then I'm going to also read the first chapter of Jade City by Fonda Lee. I am so excited about this one. I just picked this one up recently and it has been on my radar for a while, and I believe the third one has just been released or is coming out very, very soon. And I'm very excited to dive into this trilogy and just adore it. So this is about 4 different siblings of the powerful Call family who must prepare for battle in this city over jade that is magical, that enhances abilities, and there's like a foreign invasion, so there's like war on the horizon. I'm excited to dive into this one as well. Very excited. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay, so we also have The Bard's Blade by Brian D. Anderson. This is a fantasy, typical fantasy book about these 2 people. We have Mariah and Lem, and they are Mariah is the daughter of a wine merchant and Lem is a bard, hence the title. And they have lived in this city that is magically sealed off from the rest of the world, and then a stranger comes in and brings with them a prophecy and just disrupts all this terrible, all of this world, and they have to go on separate paths, and typical quest fantasy. Very excited to read that one. Let's see what else. Okay, so there's also this one by Sarah Beth Durst. This is actually, I think, one of the only ones that I'm going to include on this list that I have read from before. One of the only authors, because I don't have a lot of double authors on my fantasy shelf. It's a lot of just brand new to me, which is very fun. But Sarah Beth Durst I have read from before, and I'm very excited about this book of hers. It is like a D&D party-esque story, kind of like Kings of the Wilds, returning to a party that was established before, about 25 years ago. This one, it deals with the fact that 25 years ago, one of the party members' husbands passed away or was killed on their quest to save the world, and now she's trying to resurrect him. I do believe it deals with necromancy and stuff like that, so excited to read this one. Let's also include some sci-fi. So this one is Escaping Exodus. There's also a giant bookmark in here that just likes to stick out. This is, I believe, a space opera? I don't know if it's actually pitched as a space opera, but it is a otherworldly alien race, kind of in the far future where Earth is a distant memory, and it deals with our main character who is rash and unconventional and is preparing for her future as a clan leader, and she teams up with her best friend to search for answers of a violent tremor plaguing her home. So, I don't know, interesting, sci-fi, we love to see it. Oh, of course I'm going to include this one, which is Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. So this one is a Norse-inspired epic, which I'm so excited about. So it's in the wake of a big godly war that left nothing but broken land and bones in its wake. War is whispering again across all the plains, and there's 3 warriors, a huntress on a perilous quest, a noblewoman pursuing battle fame, and a thrall seeking retribution among the mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All 3 will change the course of the world as it once more falls under the shadow of the gods. So excited to see how this one goes as well. I'm just piling them up right next to you. It's very precarious. Okay, which one next? Oh, this one's also another sci-fi. It's Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. The back says, when a strange new visitor arrives in a floating city in the Arctic, humanity's last hope after the ravages of climate change, the city is entranced. She's riding an orca and has a polar bear at her beck and call. She's called the Orcamancer, and she very subtly unites 4 desperate people to stage unprecedented acts of resistance. By banding together, they will learn shocking truths about themselves and save their city before it crumbles under the weight of its own decay. So, interesting interesting sci-fi that I've had on my shelves. And let's see what else. I think I'm gonna pick one more. Let's go with this one down here. This one is The Golem and the Jinni by Helene Wecker. This is a historical fantasy novel set in 1899 New York, where we have a golem who is a creature made of clay who is brought to life, and when her master dies at sea, she's unmoored and adrift as the ship arrives in New York Harbor. And then it has Ahmad, who is a jinni, a being of fire, and the two of them must find a new place in New York without like revealing what they are. So intrigued by this one as well. I think that is my list. It's a big list here. So I'm gonna go and read these today at some point, and I will get back to you with my thoughts on the first chapters of all of these lovely books.
You're gonna help me pick which book first, okay? Back up, I'll widow. Back up, a widow. Sit for me. Good girl. Stay. Sit. Stay. Okay. Stay. What are these? Which one should I read first? Which one? Oh, we're going with the Bone Maker? Is that your final decision? Oh, you're sitting by the Bone Maker. You just like things with bones? How on brand. For a dog. What a good girl. Okay, we'll read the Bone Maker first.
Hey friends, so it is now a fair amount later. I'm in my library and we're gonna talk about my thoughts on all of these books. I ended up not being able to like update as we went because I'm sitting in my sunroom with my parents, and that's very weird. They don't quite understand a YouTube channel yet, so I wrote everything in my notes app. So I'm gonna read that out to you as we go through this. So I started with, of course, the book that's at the bottom of the stack. The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. We started off so strong, you guys. This one, so fun. So it is, first of all, I opened it up and I was like, oh, because it's got really cool page design on it. And it's not just that page either, it's like a few pages. The title page, then we have this title page, and then we have this title page. I saw that and I was like, that's really cool. It's a cool little design element. This one started off so strong. So strong. I was immediately intrigued by the magic element in this. Like right off the bat, we have like a talisman magic systems with like bones. The only one that I remember is a claw with a knuckle bone attached to it, and it like does different things for Freya, our main character, or the character that we're introduced to. Don't know if that's the main character or not. As she tries to steal bones from a child's funeral as the funeral is happening, as they're like burning this kid's body. She tries to steal bones from that kid and gets chased away. Like, what a dynamic start to a book. And then it made me like so intrigued to keep reading, because it also had like a mystery element of like what happened to this Jay character that there's a name for it and I can't remember. Gent? J-E-N-T-T, Gent, that Freya kept talking about, and I think that would be probably her husband that died. His name isn't mentioned on the back, but there is a dead husband mentioned on the back that she's trying to like resurrect. And then there's like this moment where it's like all of that for just a single day, but like she's like, but I'll take a single day over nothing. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because all she got was like a finger bone before they chased her off. So interesting as hell. I gave this 8 out of 10. Definitely top of the list for these books today, for sure. And then next we went to The Bard's Blade, and this one was a little bit of a downturn. It has a different feel and a different vibe. We, instead of starting with action, we start with like a festival-y type scene where it's like you get a little bit more of world building, you get the flavor, you get the characters, and I think that was really interesting and really well done as well. And then like at the very end you get a little bit of suspense, like a little bit of unknown where you're like, oh, there's something going on, and so you do want to keep reading after that, which is good. But it didn't have as much intrigue for me, but I think I gave this one a 6 out of 10. So like still intriguing, and the writing was beautiful, and I jived with it, and I liked the characters, and the fact that you get immediate like flavor of being like the wine merchant's daughter, and the bard who she's fallen in love with, and you get that sense, and then you get the sense a little bit of a mystery at the end, like what's going on, where you want to keep reading. That's fun, and you get like the world building of like the festival and the music, which was really fun. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for this first chapter. Next was a little bit of an interesting one, I'm not gonna lie, because when I picked this up, I thought this was written by an Indigenous author, because the cover is all sorts of Indigenous iconography, right? Like it is reminiscent of some Indigenous art. I did some digging because the guy who wrote this is very white, as you can see, and there's nothing on the internet that says anything like that he was like appropriating the culture or like stealing like storylines or anything. I looked at like negative reviews and like middle reviews and positive reviews, and I even like googled like Sam J. Miller appropriating Indigenous culture just to check all my bases. There's nothing really about it, but I was just, it's a little bit of like a worry of mine, you know? It just feels like that. But I even googled the word blackfish just to see if it was anything either, and it's not really anything according to my Google. So I was like, all right, but then the first chapter is literally a page. It's literally just a page and a bit, so like a full page in total. And I was like, well, that's not a whole lot. And it is set in the Arctic, so we do get like a name of one of the characters that is Canuck, which again like clued me in. I was like, oh no, what's this guy doing? Like from a page you don't really get a whole lot. It was intriguing from what we got, but I'm giving this first chapter like a 3 out of 10 just for my worries around this book and the fact that we really didn't get a lot in that first chapter, like at all. So actually, sorry, I read the wrong one. It's a 4 out of 10. The next one was a 3 out of 10, which is Escaping Exodus. This one, way too long, and it was like almost 30 pages, if not 30 pages long, and it was just waffling everywhere. Like the main thread through the whole thing is that our main character gets up too early in this like place that she's in. I think she's on a ship where like something's happening where everybody's been put in like a cryogenic sleep almost. She gets up too early to do something that she's not supposed to do, but all that gets lost in all this waffle that we get, and I don't understand why. So this was definitely just like I skim read most of it and I was like, I don't understand. Too much world building, there was too much happening and nothing happening at all. So yeah, 3 out of 10, and I don't really know if I will pick this up at all. And then we got like an incredible uptick with Jade City. I was so excited to read this book, and this first chapter killed it. It killed it. I gave it a 10 out of 10 first chapter because we start off with a plot to incapacitate or murder a guy to get some jade. So like immediately we're introduced to the fact that people are desperate enough to try and hurt somebody to steal this jade off of them, which not only in this introduction we are introduced to the fact that only some people can touch jade without anything happening to them. And so this person who we have in here, I don't remember his name, started with a B, Barrow, he teams up with another guy who can actually touch jade without anything happening to him to help him pull this job off or whatever, like to get a little bit of money. And so it like introduces us to the world of jade and this world on itself, because we do also have other characters in there that are discussing the jade world as well. And I actually pulled a quote from it. There's only one way anyone gets out of the jade business, which is so ominous. And I loved this first chapter so much. It was so good, and I am so excited to read this. So excited to read this now. Ooh. Yes. And then I went from that to The Golem and the Jinni, which is a complete 180 in tone. This feels like a mystical, magical, historical book. Like it feels like it should for this 1899 set in New York City kind of vibe. And we are introduced really only to the golem situation because it like she wakes up on a boat. This guy like paid to have her animated and whatever, and then he dies right away, and she's just left without a master because golems have to have masters for like to control them or whatever, but she's rendered masterless right on the beginning, and she doesn't know what to do. And she doesn't know where she's going, she doesn't know anything. So it's really interesting to get that vibe of like the slow unfurling of her fate right at the beginning. It's got that vibe of an old historical book, which I loved and was very intrigued by. And I ended up giving this one a like 6 out of 10 because there's not a lot happens. Like there's not like any like mystery or intrigue that like picks you up at the end of the chapter like to make you want to keep going. It's just the general intrigue and mystery of this book, which I think is really cool. So intrigued as hell by this one. We'll be reading it at some point. And then the last two here. The first one I read was The Bone Shard Daughter, and this one was interesting. I don't know. I watched a YouTube video recently with Murphy Napier, and she just like read this and she reviewed it and she absolutely loved it. And when she was trying to describe it, she's like, even though it feels like a really complex high fantasy, it's not, and it's really like easy and readable for people who want to get into high fantasy. So I don't know what I was expecting, but it was great. It was a good first chapter. What did I write? I literally just said, definitely intriguing, packed with uncertainty, and gets the main character's position across right away. It definitely moves fast with a bit of like heart pounding, like, oh, is she gonna get caught? Because right at the beginning, we're introduced to her memory loss. It's a memory loss trope, which I usually don't love. But this one was interesting because it was caused by sickness, and she's trying to prove to her father that she can be the Emperor's heir that she was meant to be, even though she just lost this, like, all of her memories due to this illness. And then she's trying to do something at the end that like slightly introduces us to the magic system of bone shards, and also the fact that she's not supposed to be doing something, like she's trying to replicate a key, but she doesn't even know what the key is. So it's a lot of like, is she gonna get caught? What's she doing? I don't understand what she, like, it's a lot of like mystery, and I liked it. And I ended up giving this one 7 out of 10. It was very intriguing. And then the very last book that I ended up reading, first chapter of, was Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I will admit, I did have to start listening to the audiobook of this, because I do have the audiobook, because it was too dim in my sunroom to read properly. It got to the point where I was looking at the page and I was like, I can't even see these words. So I listened to the audiobook for this, and I listened to it on a slower speed as though I was reading, like slowly taking it in. And it was interesting because this was, again, a total vibe change from the other fantasies. And it wasn't like the Golem and the Ginny vibe change. This one was more of like, oh, we're being introduced to a expansive world first. It is a slow stalking chapter. Like, it's a family just going for a hunt in the woods, and then they hear distant screams, and they see a village just burnt to the ground, and they see people that they know killed, and like, it's just a very like familial and close chapter, but still sprawling because you're introduced to the wilderness right away. I really enjoyed this, and I gave this one as well 7 out of 10. I think it was about equal with the Bone Shard Daughter's like intrigue. But yeah, this was really great. So we'll put this in like order of my intrigue. This is a great little experiment, in my opinion. So we have these ones first, from top to bottom, like 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 7, 7, 6, 6, and then we had these two underneath that were a 4 and a 3, so like not even worth mentioning. So this was really fun. I think this weekend I'm going to take that like top ranking one and read this weekend. So if you want to see how this like try a chapter tag worked out, stay tuned, subscribe, because the next video that you see on this channel will be a reading vlog for this book, which I think is going to be so exciting and so fun, because I've been meaning to read this for so long, and I finally got my hands on it, and I finally read it. 10 out of 10 first chapter. I'm so excited to get to this. But yeah, oh my gosh, you guys should try this at home. If you have like a bunch of books that you don't really know what you want to read next, or like me, I had just a bunch of fantasies that I've had on my shelves for a while, or that I've been meaning to read, or that I want to read, that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try a chapter of each one to see the vibes. I have another one of these planned as well, with a stack of YA fantasies that are maybe unhauls that I will be getting to very soon to like try a chapter of. I'm also planning on integrating them into a special kind of vlog that I'm going to be doing for the month of September. Each weekend I'm going to be doing one of these vlogs. So as I said, if you're not subscribed, please do like this video. Stay tuned, because I got some exciting stuff planned for my channel. Yes, my friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me for this little impromptu kind of evening of reading the first chapters of a bunch of fantasy books, and I will catch you guys in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.